This episode includes sensitive topic matter. So before we begin, I want to let you know that there will be discussions about sexual assault and physical trauma. Some of what we share may be hard to hear, so please take care while listening. If you've experienced sexual assault or trauma and need support, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. And if you are outside the U.S., please reach out to local resources in your area. You are not alone. Support is available. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Motivation and Nat. I am Natalie, I am your host, and today I'm super excited because this is like quintessential Motivation and Nat. 2 days ago, I did a cold outreach to my guest, who you're going to hear more about in a second, because my friend was like, have you heard and seen this Instagram and TikTok account? And she's out of Pittsburgh, and oh my God, I love her so much, and we have to go to the chili cook-off. And it was just like all of this stuff. And I was like, I haven't. But then in the car, I'm looking all these videos up and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to email. And I was like, it's a long shot, but I'm going to do it. And Desarae was amazing enough to get back to me like same day. And then a prep call. And then we're like, we're in. We're just going to go with it. And so this is fully off the cuff. We have zero notes. We are just diving on in. I get to learn about Desarae the same time everyone else on the pod does. And just from what I've been able to see on her, I'm going to call it influencer, but on your social accounts of cooking, comedy, and chaos, it is just perfect fit. I just resonate so much, and I think it's going to with everyone else. So without further ado, Desarae, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, what you are just driven and passionate by right now. And then we're going to learn more about you and your story and what you're hoping to see as you're continuing on with your journey.
So I'm Desarae Legros. I'm the creator behind Cooking Comedy Chaos. I started a cooking show in my kitchen about 4 or 5 years ago, really just to get me through depression. I was immobile, disabled, and really struggling with going from running restaurants and loving the industry to being at home and unable to walk. So I started cooking. There was a lot of chaos. That's where the cooking comedy chaos thing came from, because I'm a train wreck. I just I would make a mistake and just leave it on camera. And so I've grown my platforms to across my platforms. I have 1.2 million followers. We have such an amazing, beautiful community. And I think back in October, November, I got sober from alcohol in September of last year. And when I did that, my content changed. I was just doing cooking, comedy, and chaos stuff. And then I started to share my journey. And when I got sober, I told my husband, I said, I think I need to show people, because I was never like a big drinker on camera. I had done a couple videos of like taking shots and everything, but no one knew how bad it was. None of my supporters knew that I was getting blackout drunk 3 to 4 times a week. That's how I managed my pain, was just to numb it. So when I got sober, I shared a few weeks after, I got sober, I shared it with my platform, and the amount of support that was there was just so beautiful. And I had no idea there were so many people that were struggling with sobriety as well, and just coping with life. And through that, once I got sober, my husband and we took my son down to Gatlinburg for his 21st birthday. And the fact that we had told him for years that we were going to take him out for his 21st birthday and do all these shots, and then I get sober like a month before his birthday, and he was like, Mom, you missed the memo. So we went down to Gatlinburg, and we had to go to I wanted to get a t-shirt, and we had to go to like 4 or 5 different shops for me to find a t-shirt that would fit me. I was a 4X. And I remember we were sitting in this restaurant in Gatlinburg called the Apple Barn. And I looked at my husband and I said, I think I want to lose some weight. I think I want to. And that's really what sparked my journey to where I'm now. I'm now down 112 pounds naturally through calorie deficit, high protein, high fiber, strength training. With my ankle, I had shattered and dislocated it once, and then shattered and dislocated it again a week later. So I had multiple reconstructive surgeries. And after the last reconstructive surgery, a year went by and I still couldn't walk. The pain was just too intense. Well, little did I know that when you're self medicating with alcohol for pain, you're actually making your pain 10 times worse. Like people don't understand that. They're like, oh, let me take the edge off. But the alcohol that's a poison to your body is like inflaming everything. And it was to the point where I couldn't even stand on my foot. So, uh, I started getting like really weird pains, and this was right before I got sober. And we were believing that those pains were going to be the pains that, okay, now they're going to amputate it because the bone didn't heal. And my doctor pretty much said, like, when you've had enough, come back and we'll discuss it. So we walked into the office that day, and I think this was in August of 2024. And my doctor was like, "Hey, guess what? Your bone grew, so now your foot's healed." But I have severe post-traumatic arthritis. And that when we walked out, it took me like a month to get sick of me, to get sick of my own shit and really look into, okay, what is causing my pain? And then that's when I go down the rabbit hole of alcohol and that led to my decision of getting sober. I just did not, I lost my career by being immobile. I ran restaurants for 20 years. Right before my injury, my husband and I were going to open a food truck. And then I had actually gotten injured at work on my hand. And 2 months after my hand injury, I broke my foot. So it was just this series of catastrophic events that put me in the darkest time of my life. And there had never been a time where every one of my dreams had been ripped away, except for that day at the doctor's office when he told me, like, a year after the surgery, like your bone didn't grow. And I lost all hope that day. So when I went back to the doctor and I found out my foot had healed, it really gave me an awakening. Like, okay, do I have the strength to take my life back? And I contemplated quitting drinking so many times before that because I came from a family of opiate addicts. I came from a family of alcoholics. I came from a family of very destructive tendencies. So it was almost like I didn't know if I had the strength, but I was going to give it a shot. And I'm really, really, really grateful I did because my life is a million times different now.
Yeah, and that's amazing, and I think it's always it it's interesting, especially because and we'll probably get into it, the traumas that you've referenced quietly and having survived every one of those traumas and the strength it takes to do that, yet the final kind of leap to overcome a dysfunctional coping mechanism, whether it be food, alcohol, any type of addiction, always seems to be the hardest last step. It's like, all right, well, I've survived, I put my armor on, I found a way to make it through each next day. But then that moment where it's like our entire definition of what our survivalship looked like gets kind of
Mhm.
ripped out. It's like, ooh, okay, well, am I going to be back to feeling like probably that at risk kid or that person that didn't know who was there to protect them because what I've defined as my comfy space is now all gone.
Yeah.
So, talk a little about that kind of first jump into the sobriety journey and the fear that came with that, and really where you found some of those supportive elements, because it's a long journey, right? It's not like, oh well, now today the light bulb came on and I'm a little bit better, and but it's waves, it's up and down and up and down. So what has that been like over especially those first few months, but even this whole last year?
It's been hard and rewarding at the same time. And I am in trauma therapy now, and I accredit my recipe for success is that it's not been just starting a weight loss journey. It's not been just getting sober. I've taken every aspect, mental, emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And I've made it a choice to focus on every one of those all at once. And it's hard. It's when I first got sober, my emotions were I was unable to regulate anything. I had severe anxiety, severe panic attacks, a lot of depression that I was working with. And when I first got sober, I think that was the most painful part because I didn't know how to feel feelings. And through, I'm sitting right here, through journaling. I have a journal that I use every single day called I Can. It's a manifestation journal. And then I just do regular journaling. I do health journaling through that. And through getting into therapy, I've kind of learned that the only way I can move forward is to heal the pieces of me that are not broken, but they're hurt by other people. And it's shitty that they hurt me, but it's my responsibility to make the change. So, this entire journey this past year has been a lot of reflection, a lot of self forgiveness. I no longer, there's a song by Cameron Whitcomb called Wreckage, and there's a word in it, and it says, I've made peace with the wreckage. And I understand that, like, the things that I held shame and guilt for and the way I reacted, it was a coping mechanism due to, post traumatic stress disorder. And I think it's opened my eyes that sometimes in life, when we see somebody doing something that we don't agree with or that we judge, we don't understand what they went through, the hurt that they went through to make that decision, because it's a fight or flight, freeze or fawn decision. And I think that we've become so adjusted to just judging people instead of looking at them and say, what happened to make them do that? And this journey is the hardest thing I've ever done, the absolute hardest thing I've ever done. Staying consistent on something with myself has never been anything I've ever been able to achieve. I was always, when I was running restaurants, I was always 1,000% in, and I needed to make my boss appreciate me. I needed to make my boss see how valuable I was. But now the only person I give a fuck about is me and how I feel about how I do. And when you change that perception in life, your growth is going to be phenomenal. I always say that if you're comfortable, you're not growing. You have to be in a level of discomfort to take away your security blanket and see what's on the other side.
Yeah, I love that. And the piece of being the only person you're trying to impress now is you. And the flip side being to that, I think oftentimes when you're the one driving everything and it's just you rely on, if you fail, the fear is you're the person that you disappoint. And there's a component and being neurodivergent on top of everything, and that's the world that I sit in too. There's this rejection trauma that comes with being someone that's neurodivergent, especially a woman that's neurodivergent. And it's like, it's one thing if someone else rejects me, because then I can just find the parallel person who's like, no, you're wonderful, we love you. But like when you end up being like, oh, I kind of rejected myself in this weird space, and now I've got to completely pivot and start to appreciate, in what you mentioned, all those broken wreckage pieces that still make up who you are. And those are often tied to things that carry shame, and how scary it can be okay with stuff that you were once ashamed of. And I know, super emotional topic, but you have referenced foster care, being a teen mom, and those are things that society often has very strong stigmas associated with. So, as you've kind of been reflecting back on some of that or coming to terms with what that's been like, what have you thought about your younger self and being reflecting back on her?
If you were to ask me this a month ago, I think I would have a completely different answer than I do now. But I actually told my therapist last week, I was in the gym and I was standing in front of the mirror and I was doing dumbbells. And something in my mind's eye just showed me little Desiree sitting there on that bench looking at me in awe. You know, it's, if I were to, if my inner child were to say something, I would say she was the strongest woman she'll ever need. And she didn't know it. You have to go through that and get to the other side to truly appreciate the strength in the hard times. And I had a really, really messed up childhood. I mean, ages from birth, my mom and dad got divorced when I was just a baby. So then my mom got with my stepdad, and my dad got with my stepmom. And up until I was about 6 or 7 years old, well, no, 5, 6, once my childhood essay happened, we really didn't see my dad much. And then the hard part came. We had a picture perfect childhood living with my mom and my stepdad. He had a good job. We had all of our friends wanted to be at our house. And then my mom, after my essay, she started having an affair with a child. And my mom, who was enraged at my childhood essay, became the perpetrator. And that's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to process. And yeah, they say everything happens for a reason. So my mom became the perpetrator. We ended up in foster care. I got tired of being in foster care because it was a very abusive situation. And I said I wanted to go live with my dad. So I went and lived with my dad. Things were good. Me and my dad were, forming a bond because I hadn't seen him in years because of the essay. And my stepmom had a lot of mental health issues. She was completely unmedicated, unregulated, and extremely abusive towards me because I looked just like my bio mom. And that's a stepmom syndrome kind of thing that only stepkids will understand. So after a few years of living with my dad and the abuse from my stepmom, I actually went to live back with my mom. And that didn't turn out well either because my mom had a very abusive boyfriend who tried to take her life one night in the middle of the night, and I had to stand up to him, and she pretty much kicked me out of the house for that. So I ended up living with my son's dad at the age of 15, pregnant, giving birth by 17. And then that relationship became a domestic violence relationship that I had to get out of. And then I ended up having another baby by a different man. And so I was a single mom of two kids at the age of 19. No high school education, no driver's license, no car. And that's where, in that time that all that happened, my stepmom got medicated. So she was regulated. And that's where our friendship and mother daughter relationship formed. And I always say, I can't ever hold that against her because I understand mental illness. I grew up with an uncle who was severely mentally ill, and ultimately he lost his battle with mental illness when he took his own life. So I was able to easily forgive her for that trauma. And so for years, I've struggled with the relationship of my biological mom because, and through trauma therapy, the only way I'm even able to vocalize this is through trauma therapy. I've learned how to cope with it. So my anger became that my mom became the perpetrator. So how was your reaction and your feelings about what happened to me even authentic when you turned around and did the same thing? But what I've learned is that post-traumatic stress disorder, when you have a trigger to it, it will cause you to you will act out of character. And that's what my mom did. And I fell in the laundromat on Sunday, and some lady had spilled laundry detergent all over the floor, and I fell. And later that night I was like laying in bed and I was like, if that lady that spilled it, if I would have seen her, she would have taken me out of character. And I made a video and I posted it. I wasn't really thinking anything about it. But then like an hour later, I was like, oh my God, it was one of those aha moments where the light went off, and it was like she almost took me out of character because my PTSD, well, I shouldn't say my because I'm owning it. I'm trying to work on my language better. The PTSD was triggered. I said, now I get it. It clicks. Now I understand why my mom became the perpetrator because the PTSD trigger took her out of character and she coped in a way she didn't know how. So for 20, 30 years, I've struggled with ever hoping to find a path to forgiveness for her. But it was like that moment, that fall that I'm still angry about because my ribs still hurt so bad. um, that that part of the universe alignment, when I said that and it clicked, the last few days, my soul has felt so much lighter because I'm forgiving her. She doesn't know I'm forgiving her, but I am. And it's for me. It's not for her. If she deserves it or not, like that's not on me, but I'm forgiving her. So all of this shit that I've went through in my life, every single bit of it, if you were to talk to me a year ago before I got sober, I was 100% the victim. I was poor me. This happened to me. I don't know why it happened to me. I never acknowledged my strength. I never acknowledged my perseverance. I never acknowledged the light that I always carried. But now I see it. And now I know there's a reason for me sharing my story, and I know I'm helping others, and that's what matters the most. When I switched my content from like cooking comedy chaos and I decided I wanted to share my story, the first few months were really hard for me because content creation is my job. That's how I make my money. And as soon as I switched my niche, the algorithms are like, bitch, please. The people don't want to, they don't care. We don't want to see you, you know? So I went from having viral videos to just nothing. And I beat myself up mentally. I was like, do I just go back to doing what I did? But how can I? I'm not fulfilled. I feel empty. Like I feel like I'm doing everything for a purpose. And I started chasing impact versus chasing views. And I know personally that my story and me sharing it, I have a list and I have 28 people that I've helped find their way to sobriety. And there are 13 people that I've helped find their way to trauma therapy and begin their healing journey. So impact overviews all day.
Well, and for me, it's helping me get my ass on a treadmill. Uh, so pushing on the treadmill and having realistic goals too for your fitness I've had 8 surgeries between knees and ankles from my time as a gymnast when I was itty bitty little, and that's not who I am anymore. And just running a mile on a treadmill is a feat these days. And I broke my ankle running a 5K, and so there's a mental part too that goes, if you run too fast, you're so fat you'll break your ankle again. Like, so kind of getting past some of those things. So all of those efforts. And I love, what you're saying about looking back, at that kiddo. And we often hear, well, I give my younger self a hug. I tell her I'd be that caring person that she didn't have at the time. And I think one of the things that I wish that I could do is go back and high five my younger self and be like, bitch, you doing a good job. Like, keep it up. Because there was an element of, we've always said, well, you shouldn't have had to be parentified. You shouldn't have had to go through that. And I'm like, but you know what? I did. And not only did I go through it, I thrived when it was all said and done. So why downplay that? And I think that's the shift from that victim mentality. We can't go back and change that, what our younger selves went through, but I can reinforce you did a damn good job while you were working your way through it. And that has set you up for the ability to do this further growth in this inspirational kind of journey that you're heading on.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that kind of, I'm guessing there may have been a little imposter syndrome even when you started going viral, and then now when you're switching your content. What has that been like? I mean, for anyone who's never been viral, hello me, that
You're
first
going to
moment of,
get
oh
there.
my God, now
You're going to get there.
what's that? What was that first? What was the thing that popped you there? And kind of how did you handle the fact that eyes were on you now and people were watching and they were invested?
I think the imposter syndrome kicked in pretty immediately. So when I first started content creation, I started on Facebook and I was season, simmer, and shake it. And it was because I started selling Pampered Chef. Okay, that was the only reason why I fucking did that. And I was disabled at the time. So I was just trying to do something to help support my husband with bills because I went from making 60 grand a year to absolutely nothing. And it was very, very hard financially for us. And when I was doing that, that was definitely the most inauthentic I've ever been on camera. I was trying way too hard to be like Food Network, and I am just not that person. Um, so then it's funny because I went from season simmer and shake it, and then my son, it was 2020, and he was like, "Mom, you got to get on TikTok. Like, come over to TikTok." So I get on TikTok, and I will never forget. It was the night that my husband. It was like December of 2020, and my husband had went to the hospital for emergency appendicitis surgery, and no one was allowed at the hospital. Well, here's me completely depressed and codependent on my husband because I'm disabled. And I'm sitting here and I get blackout drunk that night, but I'm scrolling TikTok, and TikTok conservative algorithm finds me. And the next thing you know, Desiree, the most liberal girl in the world, goes down the Trump rabbit hole. And because I'm angry and hurt that I cannot be with my husband, I become anti-COVID, so hateful, so mean. Like I was like making jokes about civil wars and stuff. And this is like, it legitimately took my best friend telling me, I don't know who you are anymore. And I was like, wait, what? I'm still the same girl. But she couldn't see it beneath all the hatred and all of the division that the algorithm can brainwash you into. I was weak. I was mentally weak, and it got me. And so when I see like the division that's happening and all the hateful videos and all this, I look at whoever's making that video and I truly feel bad for them because there's something they're hurting from to make them that angry and that hateful and that divisive because I was there. So I had started this cooking club with a friend, and it was then that I realized I hate politics. I've always hated. How the fuck did this happen to me of all people? Like, I'm the least fucking political. I hate politicians. I was raised like this. And so I got away from it. And that's when I was like, okay, the season simmer and shake it. Like, I don't want this anymore. I want to do my own thing. And my husband had gotten me a molecular gastronomy kit for Christmas. It's food science. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a new page. I'm just going to start. And at first, it was called Cooking Comedy Chemistry. And I was making like caviar pearls and all this other stuff. And the first like 5 videos, if you go back, are so chaotic. The people are like, this should not be cooking comedy chemistry. My friend Jennifer, she commented, she said, you named this page wrong. It should be Cooking Comedy Chaos. And immediately I changed it. I was like, you know what? This is so much better. So with that purpose, I think I forgot your original question, Natalie.
No, it's great. This is the
Fucking
journey.
ADHD.
This is the beautiful journey. But no, so it's that I mean, and you've hit it. It's people going, well, that's not you. And so now you've had someone telling you who you've kind of initially presented as isn't even you, and you're trying to find you. And now it's the conversation of, all right, now going viral as kind of who you are and are questioning that too. So that imposter syndrome piece of cooking comedy and chaos now, which is, I feel like, very reflective no matter kind of what stage you're in for the very reason we have here. But that when you settled in kind of there, so you've now it's like, no, the chaotic is 100% who I am. It's
It's authentic.
right. It's authentic, and people still loved you for it. And like,
Good. When I got sober, actually, I think it was like New Year's Eve day, I posted a video. There was this woman who was obsessed with me. Like you'll get people like that, and that's fine. But she had sent me a really nasty message on New Year's Eve day, and she was like, I don't even know who you are anymore. I need you to get back to cooking and making me laugh because you haven't made me belly laugh ever since you decided to get sober. And I cried. I cried so hard because it was like everything, every video I had posted on my page before I got sober, first of all, 75% of them I was fucking hammered in and people couldn't even tell. Second of all, I was so obnoxious and loud because I was so uncomfortable. Every time I got up to film, my anxiety would shoot. I would be in the middle of filming and say something funny, and I'm nervous about what some stranger on the internet's going to think. So I would cut out the thing that made me laugh the most because I was so worried about the people pleasing. So then when I made this switch and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be me. Point blank period. I don't care. And she sent me that message. I was like, all right, first of all, bitch, it's time for you to go away. Okay, so I made a video just calling her out. I didn't say her name or anything, but I was like, I want to let you know, like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not here to make you laugh. If you're relying on me for laughter, you need to go get a fucking life. Okay, not in the meanest way possible, but she, listen, I could tell you so many stories about this lady, about the one time she tried to massage my foot. It would, okay, there, look, I'm at the triggers, the absolute triggers. But she tried to be that person to stop me, to tell me what she needed from me instead of what I deserved to give myself. So ever since then, the imposter syndrome hasn't really been there, especially because like my views have went down so much. Like I'm just like, if 1,000 people see this video, great. If 1,000,000 people see it, even better. Hopefully, it touches someone's heart. But the imposter syndrome isn't there as much with my page. It's in the fact, like the other day when I signed up for my second gym membership, I was like, who the fuck am I? Like who is this girl? And this is the girl that always hated physical exercise. I There was like two times my brother had me go to the gym with him and he was like, "I'm never going to the gym. You are the worst person in the gym." Because I would start sweating and I would stop because I didn't like to sweat. I was like, this is just icky. It
No,
feels so
me too. My husband, I'm like, "Ew, I'm nasty," and he's like, "That's the point of being at the gym." Sorry.
But now it's like this imposter that I have now. Like, I truly feel this is who I was always meant to be. And I didn't enjoy the physical part. I never enjoyed it because I never thought I was worthy of it. I never thought I was worthy of feeling good and feeling beautiful in my body. I never felt like I was worthy of being the person in the gym that other people look up to. And now, like, when I'm at the gym and one of the buff guys comes up to me and they're like, "Yo, I watched your form that whole time." Like, it is the best feeling ever because this is something I never would have done. All of it, the training for the half marathon. Like, my husband is so anti half marathon. It's not funny. He's like, "I don't want you to do this because I don't want you to get hurt." Because he was the one who watched me in so much pain every single day for 5 years. And it's like, no, now that he says he doesn't want me to do it, I'm definitely doing it. And here, he won't ever see this podcast, but what he doesn't know, and what I didn't even put it out there, but I think I'm gonna do the Pittsburgh Marathon before the Akron Marathon, but I'm gonna keep it like on the super, super down low. And I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do the half marathon. And then I think I'm just gonna call him and be like, "Hey," and hold the medal up. And he's gonna be like, "What? I thought you were at a work event." Well, yeah, it's a work event. If I film it, it's always a work event. But yeah, imposter syndrome. I don't know if I really have it anymore. I feel like I had it way more at the beginning when I was being so inauthentic to myself. But again, I didn't love myself. I had zero self-love. I was drinking myself away.
Well, let's talk a second about the husband because, it's I saw the one video that he farted in at the end, and I was like, I love that so much because that is 100% what mine will do. He'll walk in a video and pull his like pants down and moon the camera, and I'm like, I'm recording, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize, but
That's a community guideline violation.
it's like, I'm just supporting you. I'm here to make you laugh. But, he also, it seems I saw one of your plating videos with the British accents and, you're reading through the grams and how much you're eating and, he's supportive with you on that journey too. So it's this beautiful balance, right? Of being there in some moments and then kind of still having that independent voice in others. But as you've kind of made this shift over the last even 5 years, so from kind of finding this as a career and not being disabled anymore and moving forward and going, what has your relationship been like and how has it shifted or grown or what have you learned about each other?
So I think that, when COVID happened and I broke my ankle, he'd worked from home. So we went from both of us having our individual life to 24/7 together. So we became very codependent. And we were always drinkers, but it got really bad, like for both of us. I mean, I don't even like to think about it. And him and I have always had a really strong relationship. He's been my best friend since the very beginning. And with the drinking, the further it got, we never fight. We've always had very good communication, but there would be fights when we were drinking. And so when I made the decision to get sober, he cut back a lot because I was very front and honest and I was like, "Look, I do not want to be around you drunk. I have zero patience for drunk people now that I'm sober. I never understood how fucking annoying I was until I got sober." So our relationship, once I quit drinking, it got a lot better because that's when I wanted to make the change. And the funny thing is that when we first got together, he was like this big buff bodybuilder, right? And then COVID happened and no gyms. Like, there's no gyms. So we both gained a ton of weight. And when I got sober, he cut back drinking. When I said I wanted to lose weight, he said, we'll do it together. And he is down, I think, 85 pounds. So, and he's had hip surgery. He had hip surgery in May. So the fact that he's still losing,
Yeah.
after that surgery is amazing. And he got drunk one time around me, and that was the end of August of this year. And there's been some things he's had to go no contact with his mom, and there's been a lot of emotional stuff for him. So that night he got drunk. I came home from a work event. I'd been gone all day, and he acted out of character with me. He said some things that really hurt my feelings about his relationship with his mom. And I'm like, wait, no, this isn't my fault. That's your mom, baby. Like, and the next day he woke up, and I'd cried myself to sleep that night. And he woke up, and I said, I never want you drinking around me again. If you do, I'm gone. I will not ever be talked to like that again. I know my worth. I know that alcohol makes you say things you don't mean, and it brings out a side of you. And I just want to let you know, drunk Jason is a man I never want to see again. And he made that decision that day to be sober. And he's like, I'm not losing my marriage. And I said, are you getting sober for me or for yourself? And he said, for me, because I don't want to lose you. So now he's sober. And I feel like ever since that, he's been sober over 2 months. Our relationship has gotten so much better. I mean, the sex life has gotten better, like every single aspect. And I know it's hard for him because, like, his mom's our next door neighbor. So to be no contact with a family member, due to years of shit, and it was just like I went no contact first because once I got sober, I couldn't deal with it anymore. Like, before, you can say mean things to me and I'll just take a few shots and ignore that it happened and forget about it. But once I'm sober, those things stick and I actually feel it. And I made the decision to protect myself. I was like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be talked to like that. I don't deserve to be disrespected after everything, we were doing for her. And he's in a hard place right now because it's his mom and he misses her, but he also knows he doesn't deserve that treatment. And he's starting to feel his self love go up. And he's actually talked about getting into therapy on his own. I was like, oh my God. Because there's been, multiple occasions where we've had to talk to my therapist together, not anything between us, but if I'm going through something and I can't find the way to explain it, I'll call up my therapist and be like, hey, can you help me out? And I attribute so much of my healing to my therapist because she doesn't let me give up on myself. She'll let me get frustrated, but if I say one negative thing, like, she's going to call me on my shit right there. And finding a good therapist, I think, was the hardest part. I got turned down for EMDR therapy by like 4 therapists because I was in recovery. How disappointing is that?
I can't even imagine because I walked in and in the first 30 minutes, mine looked at me and she was like, so you need to do EMDR. Like, I hadn't even thought about it. And she was like, oh no, we're going to be doing a lot of that. But
There's a lot of trauma.
yeah, so if you're in recovery, that's a risk element. So they don't want to connect the two.
I think that was, well, one of them that emailed me. One just said on the phone, like, we don't do anybody in recovery or with substance abuse issues. And then the other one just said, we are not comfortable treating people in substance recovery. And I was just like, when I told my therapist about it, she was like, that doesn't make sense because trauma is the root of addiction. She was like, it just doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they want you to? And I said, well, maybe it was because I was within like my first 6 months, but I did it all on my own. I'm not religious, so I don't do AA or NA or any of that. Like, I've done the work. And now when I think about drinking, it's like, no, I love walking too much. If, I have to manage my diet to be able to walk with the arthritis. So, like, man, one sip of alcohol, I'd probably be down for a week with as much as it would flare it up. So it's not worth it. And my mind is so much better. I haven't had a panic attack in 15 months. And that, I mean, I was having daily panic attacks. Um, and I'm not medicated for anything in regards to my depression, PTSD, nothing. Like, I feel freer than I ever have. And that's what I tell people when I talk about my EMDR sessions. I feel the weight in my soul lifts after every single one. And there have been a couple that, I mean, you've done EMDR, so you know how bad it can take over. There have been a couple that have just knocked me on my ass for 2 days. I can't get out of bed. All I want to do is cry. but it's sitting with those feelings and feeling them and processing them that you get to the other side. And I think it's just, we're ingrained to just push everything down and numb it and act like it didn't happen, like we're a sitcom on TV or something, but that's not how it works in real life.
No. And I've been on a break and I keep like knowing how tough EMDR is. I've just been doing like the talk therapy and my therapist keeps going, Are you ready yet? Like she's making all these notes and she goes, We have a list. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. And I can't imagine living next door to my mother who I'm on a no contact with. I've I'm not to no contact, but I'm very close with my mother. And she had lived in my house for the last few years, not with me, but my other home. And I had to tell you have to leave. Like, I cannot do this anymore. Like, this is not healthy. And thank God she moved out. But at that point, my therapist went, So, are you aware of all the things that you've internalized that are what she's said to you over the years and you believe are full on truths? And I'm like, What are you talking about? She's like, Just make a list and send me a list when you hear the little voice come up and it's not you, it's Jean. And the list was very long. And now I don't have an option. We have to go back to EMDR. But, you know, as a mom yourself, because I'm not one, does this feel like you're breaking some generational cycles?
Absolutely. It absolutely does. I know that with what I went through in my childhood, with the foster care, with, my mom becoming the perpetrator and becoming a pedophile herself, I know that more than anything, what would help me is her just taking accountability, not making it our problem. When we got taken into foster care, it was she made me hate my sister for 30 years because she told me it was my sister's fault. And then, my sister and I were the epitome of toxic. She enmeshed herself with every single one of us and triangulated every sibling against the other. She knew what she was doing. The narcissistic mom always knows what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing it, but they know what they're doing. And with my kids, I've always been very open, very honest with them when they were little. Because I was an SA survivor, I had to have talks with children that you shouldn't have to have, but I needed to make sure that they were always open, trusting. If something happened, they would come right to me and I would handle it. So ever since I got sober, I reflected back at the things I did when I was drinking. And I've had conversations with my kids that are 22 and 20, and I've flat out told them I fucked up. You know, my youngest, him and his girlfriend were here, and Jordan had gotten his paycheck and he spent all of it, and his girlfriend was upset with him. And I said, listen, that's on me. That's on me because I worked too much and I was never there as a mom. And so on my days off, we went and spent all the money to do all the things because the only way I could be there for my kids was buying things. I said, that's on me that he doesn't understand the financial component because he always saw me splurge because that was my way of buying their love. And it wasn't purposeful. It was just, I was a mom in the restaurant industry. And I think a lot of moms with really demanding careers, that's the only way you can figure out, your love. But with parents that their kids are going no contact, it's sad that a parent says, well, I'm your only mother. Well, my husband's your only son. That's him. You have two sons, but he's the only Jason you have. And he's never been good enough for you. And that's sad. I wish that she would take accountability, but I don't think she will because of the generational trauma that's there. They don't understand that their behavior is due to their own hurt and pain from their own parents. And that's a shame. It's like when her mom passed away, my husband was so confused. He was like, I don't know why everybody's so upset. She was so mean. She was a mean old lady. Why is everybody acting like she was an angel now? And that's something that you kind of see happen a lot with the older generation. When someone dies, all of their sins are magically wiped away. Nah, not me. Not me. My dad died. I was 5 years no contact with him. And I will still tell people my dad was an abusive alcoholic and drug addict because he was. Did I love him? Yeah, but I had to cut the cord because I deserved better. And so I think it's just like we are the generation that understands the impact of trauma. And the older generation, they're never even going to take the time to learn it because they don't believe in healing. They believe in shoving everything down. And then that's where those pattern behaviors come from of it's flat out abuse is what it is, you
Mhm.
know?
Well, not even talking. I mean, I know my mom was always weirdly protective in some instances. And it wasn't until after I had my own essay, I ended up pregnant, miscarried, that she went, "Oh, well, I was date raped at 20, and same thing. I had a pregnancy and I had an abortion." And I'm just like, "W- okay, so many things make sense now, but why did it take this for you to be honest about it?" And then 15 years later, we find out my grandmother had a child before she ever got married and never, she, up until her 103rd birthday, never admitted that that child was hers. Just spitting image. We found her on Ancestry. Spitting image of my grandmother.
Oh, crazy because I found out about an aunt at
Mhm.
my grandpa's funeral. No, like, and I was like, wait a minute. Whoa, what? And like, it was apparent that like my grandma knew he had a second family, but kept it hush hush.
Oh, yeah.
What?
The whole family knew my grandmother had worked at a home for unwed mothers. She was in the home. Like, and I'm like, all the pain. She named her first daughter after the daughter she gave up. Like, and I'm like, tell me that there wasn't so much mother-daughter trauma in my mother's house growing up that then just became this toxic, cancerous mess. And then my mom didn't know how to mother because she had never had a mother. And I mean, and so that, and I mean, I'm breaking it because I'm not having kids. I'll just mother my fur children. But, you know, all the props to being able to look, especially when your kids are in their 20s and you're like, okay, hold on. Now I'm starting to understand things. And there's still time to ensure that this doesn't continue in the way. So just acknowledgement to all get out, not only for recognizing it in ourselves, but then wanting to make sure that it stops kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the generational curse thing. I mean, when I look at my family, I see that there is mental illness on both sides. I see that there is addiction on both sides. I see that there is SA all throughout the family. I've heard some very horrific things about my mom's childhood through my Uncle Mark, again, who had mental health issues. So it's like we never knew if it was true or if it was an episode. But some of the things he says really make sense when I look at my mom and her siblings. You know, there's a lot of OCD, there's a lot of addiction, there's, you know, there was a suicide. My mom had suicide attempts. There were so many things that lead to y'all went through some really fucked up shit. And no one talks about it. And how are we supposed to ever heal and become better if you can't even talk about it to feel it, to process it? Like, how are you ever going to get better?
yeah. So I know this, up till now, we've had this really heavy conversation about things, but I do want to get into a little bit of a lighter note as we get into the last kind of.
Well, I'm Gucci with that. I'm so Gucci with that. Let's go, girl.
Let's talk about kind of the cooking component, as we've kind of touched Pittsburgh area, which has a fabulous food scene that maybe just comes from our heritage of every ethnic community in the world had a spot somewhere in this city. We're a segregated city still, so there's still Little Italy. There's still all these like little components
I
and
know
dishes.
it's so weird. How?
So, what are some of the places that you love that have resonated, that bring you joy, when it comes to the culinary world of Pittsburgh?
So, Youngins in Elizabeth. It's 5 minutes from my house. Best burger spot, best owners. My daughter-in-law works there now, so we get a family discount. Um, Also Pho 51 Cafe. That's my husband's when he gets home from the gym, we're going there. Best soup in the world, the best soup, the best service. It's so kind, it's amazing. Community Kitchen Pittsburgh, they do so much for the community. Um, and then where else? Where else? Any Lebanese restaurant. Galley's Gyro on 51. Pristine. And I try to find the places that are small, family owned. If I see your kids working there, I'm going to give you a 50%, bill tip because I know those kids, my kids grew up in restaurants, I know what it's like. And so yeah, the food scene, I try to always support small and local. I'm not a big franchise gal. I worked for franchises. I know how shitty they treat their employees. Like you can have a really good manager, but have a really shitty owner. And you're just, any place that has continuous staffing problems, uh, I know how it's ran without even walking in the doors. There are a couple places around here that I've found out the hard way how the owners treat the employees, and I'll never be back, you know. I may the one person I left him like a really good Yelp review about the food, but then I met one of the employees and I went and deleted my review. I was like, you don't even get my 5 stars. You treat your employees like that. If your kid is sick and someone has to call off work, you don't guilt them into it. I missed my kids' birthdays. I missed holidays. I missed everything because I always thought, oh my God, my job needs me. But my kids needed me. And I think that's the thing, like in the industry, even in like retail, the healthcare industry, everyone is so worried about paying bills, we forget about the importance of our family. And it's sad that we're in a world where like the economy, everyone has to work. Sometimes you have to work 2 or 3 jobs. But I think that's why I'm trying to build such a strong community between restaurant owners, between photographers, like a nice little community of it doesn't have to be social media, but we can lean on each other. The restaurant owners, if they need something or they need some ideas for marketing or sales have been down, I can go in and have a meeting with them and talk to them, be like, hey, have you tried this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Because a lot of the times people that run restaurants don't have time to focus on marketing. Like that's where they fail because you're on the line 80 hours a week. So yeah, the food scene, I'll eat anything. I can actually throw down on just about anything. There is a Turkish restaurant, I think in is it Oakmont or something like that? It's called Turkish Aria. Best food I've ever had in my life. Best food. And it's like, oh, they have this bronzino fish that they bring out the whole fish, and I will like I can eat the whole fish. It's like a 4 pound fish and it's only like 600 calories. So I will fuck that shit up. But yeah, all the food places, but it's gotta be like a family owned place for me to support it. Corporations don't need my money.
Fun story. My husband, we were at a dinner at Church View Farms that brings the chefs out, and it was a whole cooked fish with teeth that came out, and I've never seen him so horrified in my life.
Did he eat it?
Oh no, no, no. We had to stop at Wendy's on the way home.
Oh, poor man. We had a pig roast like 5 years ago, and we had over 100 people here at our house for the pig roast. And at the end, we had so much pig left. And I was like, this pig should have only fed like 50 people. But then we were talking, and everybody was so grossed out by the fact it was a pig. I was like, what did you think was happening? Where did you think we were going with this? Like, they're like, I can't do it. It's just, it grosses me out. Like, oh man, Lord forbid the apocalypse happens and you have to skin something?
I ate it. I thought it was, I mean, couscous with it. It was good, but yeah. So, and I think it's a great kind of wrap up component of what you mentioned of, I come from healthcare where I sat in a session this weekend where someone said, well, because I have so many meetings, I've missed a lot with my kids. And I'm like, cancel the meeting. Like your expectations of yourself at this point are what is perpetuating this feeling of we can never walk away. And the more that we transparently and authentically talk about the fact that an upset customer that can't come eat at the restaurant today is not as important as the fact that my kid needs me right now, or they're sick, or I don't feel good. And I'm not going to come in and work sick and not bring my best self to where we need to be. And I think it's really hard, especially again, our generation that has, been helping our parents through stuff, trying to bring our kids up with it, and then relying on each other so heavily. And now to say, no, today I'm just going to hibernate. And that's the best thing I can do for me. And we'll all get through it. The world's not going to end
Yeah.
tomorrow. can't do something. And I think the first couple times is one of the scariest things to say no and be like, no, I'm not coming. I don't feel up to it. Or no, boss, if that's what you value, then this isn't the right place for me. I need to find my way. And eventually those bosses will have no one left. And, we'll have to find their own kind of journey there. But as we kind of get to the end of this, tell me a little bit about the community kitchen. I know you've got something coming up there real soon, and we're going to push this pod this weekend. So folks will have time to look into it, maybe sign up for it. But what's happening in December, and how does the community kitchen come into play?
So we've actually made the decision to postpone the December thing for my 40th birthday in February.
Okay,
So what was
we have more
happening
time
was,
then.
yeah, I think that right now, like we were just facing low ticket sales, and right now with the SNAP being paused and financial hard times coming up, I had a talk with my best friend TJ. He was the one I was competing against, and I was like, hey, like I do not want to pull resources from other people. Like I would rather just make meals for people in need. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make meals for the same day for people in need. I'm going to show up on Friday, drop them off, community kitchen, we'll disperse them. But when it came down to it, there's so many more things that are happening right now to put a party out there when it's such a hard time. Like, yeah, granted, it sounds like a great idea, but our community needs us in a different aspect. We need to show up for support. So I've got a few different events that I'm going to be doing. November 23rd, I will be at Flower Power in Allison Park. It's a Saturday or maybe it's a Sunday. I don't know. I'm really bad with dates. You should know that through all of our text messages and stuff. I was like, bitch, I'm like, what time? But we're gonna have three community meals that day, 9 a.m., 10:30 a.m., I think, and then 1 p.m. So that's Flower Power, Allison Park. Anybody who's in need of a meal, we're gonna be doing a breakfast and a dinner, or breakfast and lunch. Breakfast is gonna have eggs, hash brown, sausage, biscuits and gravy, fresh fruit, full spread, and then lunch we'll be putting out sandwiches and sides for that. So, and then November 15th, I'm gonna be at Witch Boutique, I do believe it's called, with Kimmy Rhodes, Cigarette Mom, and Jordan Gray, and we're all going to be doing a big food collection drive. And I think I'm just going to show up with some brown bag meals and hand them out, no questions asked to whoever needs them. So the food insecurity right now, I just didn't feel right continuing with our pop up with so many other people in need.
No, I appreciate that. And I think anyone listening to this right now, maybe today was the first day I heard of someone I directly know who has admitted now they cannot buy food and they don't have food in their house and their 8-year-old may not have food. And so, from a standpoint of, we're all much closer to this than I think we realize. And hopefully, everyone out there at least has a Facebook that they can click on to a local page. Because I know in Indiana, where I'm at, there are so many places collecting, restaurants rotating who's doing free lunches that day of the week. And while it should never come to this point, as far as I'm concerned, that now that we're here, how those of us that can contribute will be able to. So hopefully, call to action for anyone out there. Find, if you've got your pantry, find some stuff out of that pantry. It is amazing the food insecurity that we don't see every day because it happens behind closed doors in so many
And
ways.
it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. I also I love Lasagna Love. If you've never heard of that, that's an organization that people can go online and sign up for a meal in need. No questions asked. I know they're backlogged right now with the food insecurity that's happening, but it may take a month or two to get you matched with a lasagna chef. I actually volunteered with them for a few years. Um, and you get a lasagna chef, exchange information. They make a lasagna, drop it off at your door, no questions asked. You don't even have to open the door to meet them. So there's a lot of different organizations. I know 412 Food Rescue is doing a lot right now. Community Kitchen Pittsburgh is doing as much as they possibly can. But the hard part is that what a lot of people don't understand is the current administration has made so many cuts that a lot of these nonprofits have lost 30 to 50% of their staffing. So not only are they facing the food insecurity, they're facing having to do double the work with half the amount of staff. So if you're watching this podcast and you have time to go donate your time to your local food bank or your local food pantry, it would be more than appreciated because all of their funding has been cut.
And I think another one with Veterans Day coming up, a huge percentage of veterans rely on SNAP benefits. And, you may not realize people marching in the Veterans Parade or out there are actually recipients. So there's also an opportunity through veterans organizations. So lots and lots of ways you may have to look a little for it. But if you, again, all you can do is help package some things or clean out the pantry, it is definitely the time to do that. So that's our main call to action. Thank you for getting us there by, kind of talking about postponing of the event in February for the birthday. And that means I can probably come because I couldn't come to the December
And
ones.
it's my 40th birthday. Like that's going to be the best part. I want to throw a 40th birthday party. I think I want to like make a goal to feed like 400 people that day or something. I don't know. I want everything to be in fours. That's going to be my magic number.
I love it. And you're an Aquarius, right? Or okay, I was going to say, I can feel it.
Listen, I was so mad. I didn't even realize the full moon was last night. Someone commented they were like, the full moon was last night. I was like, fuck, I forgot to charge my crystals. No, like, that's the perfect time.
Well,
It's okay. There will be
we
another one.
we have had an absolute awesome 60 minutes of just, I think, such truthful conversation. And I know that there are so many people that are going to tap into a part of this. And again, not scripted, no outline, no nothing. This was how we released. So we did our full moon release today out into the ethos of the
We
podcast world.
definitely did. And
Um,
I'm challenging you to cold email people way more often.
I will.
Way more often.
I will. And hopefully also a challenge for people to answer because you never know what you might connect with. And this has been absolutely fantastic. I do just a deep breath at the end of every podcast because we do talk about heavy topics. I never know when someone's going to listen to this and they might be like, I have to go to a meeting in 10 minutes or pick my kids up. So just a real quick, deep centering breath for you, for me, for the listeners. In and out. And one more. In and out. And with that, another fantastic episode of Motivation that I'll put Desiree's information in the description info, everything, so you can find her on those different social media platforms and get just as much energy into your day as I have since finding her. And thank you so much for making time.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart. I can't wait to meet you in real life one day. I'm gonna hug the fucking shit out of you.
Yeah.
Well, not like legitimately, because you need a diaper or something that can help you. But
You can squeeze the bladder a little bit. It's okay. Well,
that works. That works. That works. All right. Thank you so much.